Wrestling podcast, and we are part of Europe's largest sports podcast network, Sports Social Podcast Network. Over 450 podcasts from people within sport and fans of sport. And I have got a special guest today. He is one half of one of the biggest wrestling entertainment shows going with Mike Monte, who I've had previously on the show. It's Jimmy Pharaoh. The Pharaoh is finally on Stu's Wrestling Podcast for episode 181. How are we doing, sir?
Very well. Thank you for having me, Stu. I actually woke up and rose out of my coffin. Not bad. Not bad. It's early here on the stateside.
Perfect, man. Perfect. This is great. I love your show. I've told Mike many times. It's not just a wrestling show. I know predominantly you get the wrestlers in, but if you want to be entertained, get on Monty and the Pharaoh if you haven't already, isn't it?
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. It's been a bit of a tornado. We've been on YouTube only about 4 years now currently, and we've been through 2 channels because we got canceled with our first one after 20,000 plus subscribers. Sorry, I'm gonna just go into character. Forgive me, Stu. I can't help it, but yeah, the second channel has been fantastic. Obviously, we're right back up towards 20,000 again, and it's been a blast. It's had its ups and downs. I love that you have a I've seen that you have a channel for, like, not a channel, but a show that you do about mental health and pro wrestling. Oh boy, I could tell you stories going up and down the slide with that, how that goes behind the scenes.
Absolutely, yeah. But you know what? The mental health is it's a broader topic, Jimmy. Do you know what I mean? You cater to more people. If I just help one person, Jimmy, with them posts, we're
Right.
doing okay. But the outpouring privately, I
Right.
would never put messages out there that I've had privately of people. It's very rewarding. It's very rewarding without any monetary gain.
Well, it's very cool that you're doing that. So props to you, Stu.
Thank you, man. Now, what a ride with you guys. As you say, the channel got shut down. Frigging social media, pain in the arse, as we know.
Right.
They want you to spend money, don't you? They want you to do advertising stuff and spend. This is what they want. This is what the big wigs want at Facebook. But just the range of guests you guys have had on, especially guys from like the 70s and 80s. I started watching pro wrestling in 90. But obviously I've dipped into old wrestling territories and stuff like that. I'm not going to say pick a top 3, but just some guests that you've just loved having on the show, you personally.
Wow. All right. Well, right away, Bob Backlund comes to mind, because Bob Backlund, my partner and I, we met back in junior high school in around 1981, 82 time period. And Bob Backlund, of course, was the WWF champion back in those days. He had defeated superstar Billy Graham in the late 70s, and he held the belt for what seemed to 2 junior high kids to be an eternity. Just an eternity. Bob won year after year, match after match. I think it was 5.5 years of that. So, and we were heel people. We rooted for the bad guys. We liked Morocco. Mike loved Morocco, Sergeant Slaughter. I loved Greg Valentine. So that's when we met, and that's when wrestling was being presented much more so as a sport rather than a form of entertainment for scripted purposes. As far as the public was concerned, this stuff be real, So especially to a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid, sure, it felt real. It was presented real. Those shots looked like they hurt. But Bob Backlund was the champion. Mike and I hated him. Hated him. Hated him. Howdy doody. Rooted against him all we could. We couldn't stand him. And month after month, he would escape with that belt. And not even escape. He'd beat the guy. Because he had an amateur background. He was the real deal. That's why we always took him seriously. People who trash Backlund don't realize that Bob Backlund is very much like a Kurt Angle in his day. He had legitimacy to his background. He could wrestle. And we found out years later that if you tried to do a shoot on him and take his belt, he would mangle you. People were afraid of him. Ric Flair said, "Thank you for not hurting me." Bob Backlund was a bad man. So to finally have him on the show, You know, it's ironic. You know, you hate the guy all those years as a fan, but I was so excited. Mike was so excited. It was almost like an outer body experience. And trust me, at this stage, I don't do much worshiping of pro wrestlers. Yeah, if you understand what I'm saying, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm way past that nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But to have Bob Backlund coming in put shivers up and down my spine. I know it did Mike's, and he was everything. You know, sometimes they say be careful when you meet your heroes. Not in this case. That man was fantastic. What a
Mm-hmm.
gentleman. Just a 10. It was a 10 experience. So Bob Backlund's one of them. Um, wow, this gets interesting. Greg Valentine has to be another one because Greg
Mm-hmm.
Valentine was my favorite, you know, and he didn't disappoint either. He was very cool with us. There was a bit of a hilarious moment where at the studio we were at the time, had no toilet paper. Way to go, guys. We got Greg Valentine. We got Greg Valentine coming in, and you got no toilet paper. Very good, you know. But well, it just so turns out Greg had a, you know, the turtle was peeking out of the shell, and he had to go. So it was hilarious. So all of a sudden we find ourselves, we're supposed to be doing a show with this guy. Mike is jumping in the car, and I hear Greg in the bathroom, hurry up. Oh my God, going to get toilet paper. How's that for a highlight? You like that, Stu? Like,
Brilliant, because this is the thing, isn't it? These are the curveballs. It's not just interviewing, is it? You've got them in
no.
studio. You've got to think of other things, and
Yeah.
it
Yep.
on the,
You
on
do.
the fly, on the fly, Jimmy. Which sometimes I think works better than being. I think a lot of shows are too structured. Sometimes they're very
Right.
wooden. They're very
Right.
wooden in delivery.
Well, you know, it's interesting with Mike and I, there is structure. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lot of structure. However, the structure is what I think we would both probably term it as a loose blueprint, and everything else is organic. And honestly, like I said, the script is there for structure, but it's only there as a quick glance. And if the conversation's going in a different direction, we'll take it in a different direction. We don't always stick to the blueprint. You know, every conversation needs to be natural and organic, and feel like you. We like to do it like you're talking to a guy at a bar. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's that is, we all look how you guys do it. We do, and I'd be, you take things from shows. Of course, you do. There's so many shows I love. You guys just brilliant, and yeah, I do. I look up to you, and Mike. Of course, I do. That's just how I
I
feel.
really, I really appreciate that. You know, Mike's much more in tune than I am as to what's out there. I, I'm a musician and I'm also a wrestling fan. I
Mhm.
spend a lot of time not paying too much attention to all the talk and all the blah blah. I don't want to be influenced by anybody.
No,
I
no,
have to be I have to be honest. I don't want to be influenced by anybody. I do check out your show.
thank
I
you,
check out a few other shows, but
thank
in
you.
general, I don't check out much at all.
No,
I really don't have that much care about how someone else feels about it. I feel people are tuning in to see how we feel about it. So I that's how I approach that.
absolutely no. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think I'm not as in tune with the product as I was. Uh, so I totally get where you're coming from and your standpoint. Lewis Young from Falkirk in Scotland, Jimmy,
Yeah.
a regular viewer, listener of my show and my other shows that I do. Lewis, great having you on, man. Hope all is well up in Scotland. All good, all good. Jimmy, I was going to ask you as well. Obviously, you've done other stuff in terms of media as well. I'd be right in thinking you've done stuff at ESPN, wouldn't I?
Yeah, you'd be right. You
Yeah.
would be correct. That was just fate and circumstances, pretty much. I hooked up at a place that I work at, and in the sports department of it was a fella, Brian Haddad, named Coach. I call him Coach, and turns out he does radio at ESPN here in Northwest Florida, and he's a wrestling fan. You can't make this stuff up. You know, you really can't. And we hit it off. I love the guy. He's a great guy, and he said, "Why don't you guys come on the show?" You know, that was a great moment for me personally because Mike does so much work behind the scenes for this
Mhm.
show. Oh my
Yeah.
God, he does so much work for this show, and basically, it was really nice to be able to call him and go, "Hey, you want to be on ESPN today?" So he was like, "What?" I was just like, "Yeah." Yeah. So we've been doing regular spots, usually before pay-per-views and after pay-per-views.
Mhm.
But the fellas at the station like us a lot, so there's been some talk about having us on more. So we'll see what happens. But it's very exciting because pro wrestling, at least on American radio, has not been embraced yet. And it makes me laugh. It's like, why don't you just get over it already and accept it for what it is? It's a sporting event. Whether you want to call it, you can call it anything you want, but it's physical and it's a sporting event and it's huge. So I'm trying to be one of the first ones with Mike to break that barrier on American sports radio and to get a major station to regularly talk about pro wrestling. It's a small step, but I'm hopefully in the end. And if it's not me and Mike that ultimately take it to that, I don't care.
Mhm.
Someone's got to start the fire. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Of course, I want it to be us, though. Let's not get that twisted.
Hey,
But you know,
absolutely. You guys at the forefront, if that happens and it, coagulates and yeah, without question. Do you know what? I've got to be fair. I think in Europe, especially when they're bringing plate things over, because we don't have it as frequently. This is why they're having the numbers they're having in the big stadiums still. Whereas you guys, I know it's going from state to state. I know it's massive, America, but I think we're selling the places out. But if it was happening more regularly, would the attendances be as big over here? That's the way I look at it.
right. Well, that's to be determined. You guys seem very, very passionate over there. I mean, where there's a passion and there's a good product, I mean, we feel WWE sells out everywhere they go.
Yeah,
Okay. I
yeah.
mean, no matter what people may say, and I find it hilarious that some of the people on the internet are just dead fast on hating on the WWE. I think that that's an absolute joke. All right. If you want to work in the safest company that will pay you the most, WWE is the place. Don't tell me AEW is safer than WWE as a performer. It is not. All right. Those guys are known for having to kill themselves because that's what that fan base wants. So the very people who hate on Vince McMahon and the current WWE are the same people that want their wrestlers to destroy their bodies, absolutely destroy them, so they can do their little chants. And, look, I love a technical wrestler and even a current day flop guy, flip and flop and fly guy, as much as anybody else.
Mhm.
But as far as theory goes, there's a proven theory, and its initials are WWE,
Mhm.
period.
Absolutely.
That's the Yankees of pro wrestling. That's why the whole world knows about pro wrestling in general, because they were the virus that carried it everywhere. And that's due to Vince.
Mhm. You have to evolve. You look at production now. Since Endeavor have taken over, you look at camera angles and stuff. They're doing stuff. When Logan Paul hit the spot from the top turnbuckle,
Right,
there was that panoramic 360 thing. They're
right.
always evolving. They've always evolved over the last
Yep,
however long.
yep.
You have to, don't you, Jimmy?
You do. And I also trust in Triple H. I love how that all gets lost in this. The haters wanted the WWE to, everybody should be fired because of Vince's recent alleged scandal, which is
Mhm.
still not been to court yet. I'll talk about how I really feel if there's ever a court case. Otherwise, it's another one of those, all hot wind. But they wanted Triple H to be fired. Well, it's his son-in-law. He has to know what Vince is up to, so
Mhm.
fire him too. I do not want a non-wrestling person handling the WWE. I do not. Okay. I am thrilled that The Rock is on the board. Thrilled. I am thrilled
Mhm.
that Triple H is in charge of booking the shows and stuff. Why would you want someone who's not a lifer? Triple H is a lifer.
Mhm.
He's a lifer. He gets what wrestling's about. He's not going to jump the shark. He's not going to pull a Vince Russo. He'll never do anything like that. And yeah, that's right, Vince Russo. Yeah. The guy who like came up with the let's make fun of JR's medical condition. Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, you. All right. Triple H would never go in that direction. Triple H loves wrestling. And they're saying professional wrestling again on the show, some of the wrestlers. And that camera angle, from what I understand, the one you're talking about with Logan Paul, was suggested by Logan Paul,
Mhm.
which means that Triple H listens to his employees.
Of course. It,
Okay,
yeah.
I mean, it's such a mirage to me. All the hatred for WWE. Listen, if I was a wrestler just getting started, I would want to make it in the WWE. I would want to go to the place that pays me the most and keeps me the safest because they've invested in me, because money's the end game. This is a business, period.
Without question. Without question. Bruce Butler, what's up, everyone?
Hello, everybody out there.
And we've got ESO Creative.
Ah.
Hey, everyone. Hey, you're bringing them in. You're bringing them in.
Very good. Bruce.
Like
that ESO is Bruce. He's a fine, beloved member of our channel. He does so much stuff for us behind the scenes. What's up, Bruce?
Hey, Bruce.
And hello to everybody. What we got? We got Scotland. You said we have Scotland.
Yeah.
Where else?
I've got another one from Scotland.
Very good.
What do you think of Ethan Page turning up at NXT? Obviously, he was contracted to AEW for a very long time.
Right.
He was on the independents. He was at TNA Impact as we knew it. I've got my answer to it. But what do you reckon, Jimmy, with Ethan Page?
Well, the good news is that he's there when there's a little bit more of a chance for him to succeed. All right. Triple H. So far, from what I'm seeing, with the guys coming up from NXT, they're not getting scrubbed. So, I mean, NXT is great. He'll probably do amazing in NXT, right? I mean, that would make sense, right? But I don't know what will happen once he gets to the WWE level, because that's where, a lot of the times you find a guy in NXT and then he steps into the ring and stands across from Randy Orton and he looks like a mini wrestler. All right, because they are bigger on the big level. So with some guys may not necessarily be the case. If your aura is big enough, who cares? That's how I feel about that. CM Punk is not the largest man in the world, but what an aura. His aura fills up an entire stadium. He has that it factor. Roddy Piper wasn't the biggest guy in the world either, but his aura filled up the entire stadium with ease. He felt big. He felt main event. So does Punk, But as far as he'll excel in NXT, let's see what happens when he gets to the WWE. Not everybody can come in like Braun Breaker and just demand.
Unbelievable. But
it's amazing.
Genetics. But again, the guy has got to be able to do it as well. I would never discredit. He's got to do it. You can base himself on his uncle and his dad, Jimmy, but
right.
He's got to do it. You could just tell. You can just tell right away that he is going to go up. Brian Pillman Jr. going to AEW and then coming back as Lexus King. He'll be done properly. They tried it in AEW with him. They did when they were in Cincinnati. They did the hometown thing, didn't they, and all that with him. Tried to get him to a level. They didn't know what to do with him. Whereas he's in the right environment now.
They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do with him in AEW because they don't know how to develop people. Where is their brand new from their own brand? I mean, outside of MJF, what do they got?
No.
What is going on there, And MJF made a mistake, by the way. I don't think MJF should have re-signed with AEW. I think MJF should have gone to the WWE.
You mean, I've got a question there for you that I'll put, because it's like obviously we're talking about it now.
Yeah.
Would that guy get lost in the shuffle? I know he's amazing. Would he get lost in the shuffle? I think I know the answer to this.
All right. Well, it's very debatable. I know how my partner feels about it. He feels that he's too small. I don't think that that's the case. It would all depend on the obvious answer, booking. It would depend on what Triple H sees from MJF. You can definitely give us a rated R, because right now he's past rated R with his mouth, with the things he says. Okay, basically he's for the big boys with the language he uses. I believe that you can get a rated R version of MJF and still be very effective. He's just too good on the mic. You got to try at least. You got to try. And I'm amazed that he has not considered going. He must have considered going to WWE, but I'm very disappointed in him for not going to WWE. So we're going to have to wait another how many years his new contract is. I like I said, I don't pay too much attention to those things. Is it a long contract? Maybe I have no idea.
I would assume I read stuff on the IWC, so it's not a matter of fact, is it, half the time. Anybody can start writing and become a journalist on the internet, can't they? Let's be honest, with no background in it professionally or anything like that. So I think Tony Khan will do everything in his power to secure him. out above anybody else. Because as you said, who else have they made homegrown?
Nobody. No, nobody worth writing home about. You know, the company was originally built on guys who had established themselves in other places.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, their biggest star, like Chris Jericho, what is he doing? It's like, bro, stop. You got to stop, or you got to hit the roids or something. You got to disappear for a while. You know, it's overkill. When I saw the main event this last week on Dynamite, I'm like, Jeff Jarrett's closing the show. Jeff Jarrett? What are we doing? I thought you're supposed to be the future. You're just borrowing. You're just grabbing from another company, and you're taking their stars, and you're saying, "Oh, look at us! Aren't we great?" I don't see it. It feels like a wealthier version of TNA.
The momentum leading up to Wembley, I've got to be fair, but then again, it was all booked last minute. Wembley, we didn't know what fucking matches were on, man. I'm like scratching my head. What is going on here? You come into fucking Wembley, one of the most iconic stadiums in the world. I'll put it up there. Unbelievable music, the lot. It's iconic. We didn't know what the hell was going on going to London when we went down there, and I thought, oh, it'll be okay. And as a show, you know, it wasn't bad. But they've gone downwards rather than upwards.
Right.
Having 70,000 people in the stadium.
They were seizing a moment where they knew that a rabid fan base would come to see. And by the way, who did you go to see that night? You probably went to go see a bunch of WWE legends who are currently working for AEW. True or false? I mean,
I wanted to see how Ospreay got on with Jericho.
But again, Ospreay is a star from where?
Of course, Japan, no question.
Jericho is a legend where, you know?
Yeah, you're not wrong. I know you're not wrong.
So there you go. There it is right there. That's the problem. The problem is that they've not stared themselves in the face. Tony Khan needs to go to his room and stand in front of a mirror and think what Vince McMahon thought, but he'll never be able to do it because he's not Vince McMahon. In the late 90s, Vince McMahon was forced to take a good look at himself. And you know what he did? He took a mid-carder named Mick Foley and he made him Mankind because he saw something. He took a guy that was just cast off from the WCW and made him the Undertaker. He took Rocky Maivia and allowed him to become The Rock. He took Hunter Hearst Helmsley and you know, and the wrestlers too talk to Vince. They make it out like Vince didn't have conversations with these guys as they were changing their characters. Look what he did for Austin.
Yeah.
That all comes from being able to talk to your employee and go, well, what do you have in mind then, since you don't like what I'm giving you? And then the wrestler gives his idea, and they meet in the middle, and you got Stone Cold, you got The Rock, you got Mankind, you got all that. That's why Vince McMahon won the war, because he looked from within and created his own stars. What are you doing, Tony Khan? You can't keep borrowing from Vince, then talk shit about Vince. Can I say, I guess it's too late to ask if I could curse or not, you know, and you're not going to win that way, bro. You're not going to win that way.
They weren't doing bad, and then Cody went. Cody was the go-between backstage. You know, he was there.
Right.
He liaised with talent.
Right.
They haven't got that. What? Why not give one of the older guys like a Jerry Lynn a bit more? You know, Dean Malenko.
Right.
Let them do a bit of booking. He's too hands-on. He's too hands-on for his own good. I know Shad Khan's worth billions and billions, but they're only going to throw so much at it.
Right.
You know, they want TV money. He's not going to keep throwing billions at it. Let's get a load of talent in. Let's throw a load of belts on people. There was a time where it was looking quite good. You know, it's just gone downwards since London. It's gone.
Well, the locker room is all sorts of divided and screwed up. You know what? Punk didn't walk into a dysfunctional locker room. No. Punk discovered a dysfunctional locker room. You know, and another thing that gets lost, Khan is not a lifelong wrestling person in the business. Vince was. His father was a booker. I went to cards that Vince Sr. promoted. Those were great. Vince Sr. knew what he was doing, and Jr. knew what he was doing, because they're wrestling people for life. Not because, you know, it's like they both got dad's money, right? Khan got dad's money. Vince Jr. got dad's money.
Yeah.
But one was in the wrestling business his whole life. There's a
Mhm.
huge difference. Huge
Absolutely.
difference.
Absolutely, mate. I'm with you. I'm with you wholeheartedly on that. I want them. I want AEW to succeed. I do. I do. It's better. It's better all round if that happens. It really, really is. Jimmy, do you think Sting should wrestle Undertaker at WrestleMania 41? That's from Nicholas Woodall. He's watching us on YouTube. I've got my answer, but I want to ask you because you're the guest and you're the primary reason we're here.
While it's one of the sexiest matches in the history of wrestling, and probably the sexiest match we've never seen, if you're talking Sting Undertaker, I don't want to see it. The reason why I don't want to see it is that everyone will expect Ali Frazier. They will want something that is just, unreachable at this age for those guys. Now Sting's been busy, I understand that, but you got to think about Taker. Taker doesn't look. The last time Taker was in the ring, I'm sure you recall that he wasn't very pleased with it, and that's years ago at this point. I don't think Taker has much left, if anything at all, in the tank. Now, if they wanted to do, but it would still be a disappointment to me because it's a cop out. If they wanted to do what Taker did with Styles and make it like a mini film and have a brawl and all that stuff, so you can cut the bad stuff and keep the great stuff and make it look fantastic. Maybe they could do that. But again, I don't know how much gas Taker has left in his tank. Doesn't sound to me like he wants to do anything like that ever again.
31 was the place to do it. I was there. I was in San Jose, San Francisco for it. That is when it should have happened. It didn't. They went with Triple H. And Triple H got it in the neck that Sting didn't go over. Triple H has lost various times at WrestleMania. His record is he's lost more than he's won. Sometimes it doesn't go how we want it, or they go different. Sting, I didn't disagree with Triple H winning that match because he's put over so many people at the big one.
I think we're in the minority. I agree with you. I thought to myself, when people say, "Oh, Sting's WWE run, oh, what a joke. What a joke." I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, his debut was great. Okay. It's a memorable debut. Out he pops from the box. He's like, oh my God, it's Sting. Okay, that was great. And then he gets to do one of the top matches at a WrestleMania, which he never had gotten the chance to do. The match itself was very entertaining. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't that when DX and the NWO came down? I loved that. I loved that. I thought that whole match was very enjoyable. Very enjoyable. As far as the decision, it didn't bother me in the least.
No.
Triple H was still, much younger than he is today, and Sting was supposedly towards the end of his career anyway. So why should, the veteran put on? Why? Because you like him? That's not how this works. There's plenty of times I see a match where the guy I like doesn't win. I mean, but my God, thanks to the internet, you and me could complain about it for years. Let's just, sprain our fingers. Ugh.
It's just too easy. It's just too easy, the world we live in now. But that, it's one of them. Do you know what? Prior to going there for that, my expectations were low for that card. And on the whole, across the night, it was amazing. It was one of the best. It's one of the best ones I've been to, Jimmy. It all worked out, and it exceeded everybody's low expectations, I think.
Right. And that's why if Sting and Undertaker fought each other, the expectation level would be too high. I don't think they have enough physically left to give us what we would have liked to have seen 10, 15 years ago.
I've enjoyed Sting with Darby. I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed him being the mentor, doing that. Fantastic. They didn't overdo it. He tagged with him. They never lost as a tag team. That was fine with me. I like that he was like Darby's mentor, like the heir of Baron.
I cannot get into Darby. I can't.
No, I understand that.
I have a problem with that. It's first of all, he's just, come on, man. He's just too small. He's too small. I can't buy into it. I just can't. Look, we were raised, especially my partner and I, we were raised when might made right. Okay. And there was very few exceptions. you know, and I'm fairly confident that if you line up 10 of the largest men in the world with 10 of the best, you know, fly around types,
Mm,
there's going to be 10 sacks of fly
mhm,
around types to carry out of there, you know. So, like, to me, I can't buy into him. I can't. And he doesn't have an aura where I go, oh my God, it's Darby Allin.
mhm,
I mean,
mhm,
for a little guy, Hook at least
mhm,
has some of that. You know, he has some of that. He does appear to be a badass, even though my tennis instructor is bigger than him.
mhm.
I
No, no,
can't, man. I
I know.
just can't. I
I know.
can't. I will not look. I will suspend my belief with pro wrestling. You're supposed to, especially nowadays that the curtain has been torn open and everybody
Mm,
knows that it's scripted
mhm,
and all this other stuff. I will suspend my disbelief on a lot of situations. Heck, I like the Johnny Knoxville Sami Zayn match. I
yeah,
laughed the entire time.
brilliant.
But if you're trying to seriously sell me that my tennis instructor is about to beat Hulk Hogan into oblivion, I'm not buying it. I can't. I can't get past that one little physical fact. Maybe it's my loss. I don't think it is. You know,
No.
I still love plenty of the high flyers.
Mhm,
You know, and you don't always have to be a giant guy. You better have a big time aura, though, like Rey Mysterio. I
mhm,
buy into him.
mhm,
I always have because he plays big, he wrestles big. He doesn't have to be big because he's the absolute king of his style of
mhm.
wrestling. The
One thing,
king.
one thing WCW got right when he beat Nash, and
Right. Right.
amazing, amazing, amazing
Yeah.
booking.
Yeah.
David
Yeah.
versus Goliath. David versus Goliath. It'll always work. They fucked up a lot of shit, but
Right.
that they made him. They made him a
Right.
star. They really
Well,
did.
they took a page out of when 1, 2, 3 Kid beat Razor
Mhm.
Ramon. You know, I mean, it was already there. Once in a while, you know, even that blind squirrel finds a nut.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know,
My friend from Wisconsin. He's not from Milwaukee. I kept billing him from Milwaukee. He's from Northern Wisconsin, Jimmy. It's my good friend Justin Clapper. Great friend, great support network for me. Been around the wrestling business for many, many years. Great
what's
guy.
up?
Love this man to death, Jimmy. Do either of you envision a scenario where one could revive a territory type system modified for today's independent scene? I know what I'm thinking, but curious to hear from you too. Jimmy, I'll put this one to you just because of time constraints.
Gotcha. Territory system today probably would not work unless it's someone with a lot of money and a lot of fast talking ability. I can't see it. There's so much division in the States on independent wrestling. Everybody goes from little company to little company, probably gets underpaid and way overworked. It's ugly. Do I think someone could come along and fix it? If they've got that kind of money, they would probably do serve themselves better to just try to do what Tony Khan is doing and get on television. I think it's a massive undertaking. It was meant to be in those days, and I don't think it would happen now, unfortunately, for some of us.
No, it's just yeah. Justin, obviously from where he was from, he grew up on the AWA. He's a little bit
Right.
older than me,
Hmm.
so yeah, no, he's a big proponent of AWA. Greg Gagne loves Greg Gagne,
There you
absolutely
go.
adores
Greg,
him.
Greg Gagne is going to be on our show on Thursday night.
JC, did you hear that, mate? Because you've been trying to get Greg for many, many years for your
We've been
show.
trying to get Greg for a long, long time. But yep, he'll be on Thursday night. That's 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And if it's 9, what time is that for you?
It'll be
3
2
a.m.,
o'clock, 2 a.m. in the morning.
2 a.m. Right. Oi.
And
There you go.
he's replied there, Jimmy, with that news. Awesome, because he absolutely adores them.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Enjoy.
JC. I look forward to your content coming back as well. We need more. We need more people doing content who care about the business. We really do. Jimmy, we're going to talk about Manchester United because I know you're a soccer fan.
Uh-oh.
We talked about this off camera prior to coming
Right.
on live. Now I know you're a United fan because I've seen your shirt, I've seen you wearing the jersey on your episode. So yeah, Manchester United, the current situation. Yeah, we'll talk a bit of soccer, football.
Well, it's nice to be able to, with you, because in general, nobody I know wants to talk to me about football. They don't watch it. Now and it's weird too because I know as far as ratings and stuff, MLS is doing well. considerably well. And there is a fan base in the United States for soccer, but I don't know where they are. I don't see them. I'm like, okay. I don't like the coach. Obviously, I've talked to you about that off camera. Ten Hag's got to go. I don't care for him. I think he's made a lot of mistakes. It's nice that they won this FA Cup. It would be interesting if this FA Cup saves his job, because I know a certain other coach where something like that saved his job, and look what happened with Sir Alex all those years. But I don't think that this is a Sir Alex. I think this is a Sir. There's the door. Go. I'm a big Ronaldo guy. I understand he's at the end of his career. I could not stand how he handled Ronaldo. I've never been on board with Rashford. So basically, it's not the Man United I've known, but you deal with it, because they were great, when they were, and hopefully they'll be great again. And that was a great triumph. It was awesome to see them beat Man City, who to me is the New York Mets, because I'm a New York Yankees fan, and they're the Mets. All right, so I'm glad you got all that money and you bought Pep and you bought everybody else. I found it ironic that two kids that were homegrown burned you this past weekend. Ha ha. So whatever, you got a long way to go before you catch up to us anyway. Look at that. You see, I'm bragging and everything. This is kind of obnoxious, Stu. You can stop me any second.
Player power wasn't what it was when Sir Alex was there.
Nah.
It's different now. It's different.
Yeah.
I've got it. I'm going to give Eric a little bit here.
All right.
I think he's trying to rule with an iron fist. But
true.
There's been several that have gone. Sancho went back to Dortmund, went to Germany.
Right.
It's changed. It was different in Sir Alex's day. What Sir Alex said went, and the players either liked it or lumped it. You know
what the problem is that it's okay to rule with an iron fist, but the one who rules with the iron fist has to have a body of work to stand on to be able to preach to a Ronaldo. Okay? Like Mourinho? Oh, yeah, that's a body of work. You can love him or hate him, but that's a body of work. He's got the right to rule with an iron fist when he takes over a club. All right? Pep, obviously, he's got it. Plenty of other guys. I remember Arsene Wenger. I mean, that guy's got it. He's got it. He's got the resume. He can tell you what to do and what not to do, and you better listen. I don't feel that that's the vibe coming off this guy, because I'm sure the veterans look at him and go, who the hell are you to tell me? I really believe that some of that comes into it. So you can rule with an iron fist, but you better have a body of work to back your stance. And I don't think that's the case here.
The pantheon of top managers, elite managers is very small. That's across all sports.
Right. Okay?
That is no question. But I just wonder who you get in to replace him, because the club's not been right since Alex. And
I'll tell you who I'll tell you who I want, but I don't think that it'll happen. And he would fix them, and they would be great again. Over his dead body, would they fail? Zidane. I want him.
Okay.
I want him.
Okay.
Because that's something that Vince McMahon would do.
Yeah.
Okay? If the ship is broken, you fix it. And every ship has to have a great captain. And this guy not only was one of the greatest players, he was also one of the greatest managers. There is nothing he has not checked off. He walks in there with that put a big long black pea coat on him and let him do his death stare. All of a sudden, guys we've never heard of will become household names, because that's what a guy like that can do.
Managing in Spain, La Liga, and coming to the Premier League, though, is a different kettle of fish. Because
I understand that, but I'm willing.
All 20 teams on their day, even your lower teams, can do something. I'm not disputing Zidane. I just think anybody coming in from Spain who's managed, on continental Europe, it's a different kettle of fish when you get to England.
I'm sure it is, and I don't doubt that for 1 second. But I do believe that he would adjust.
Okay.
I mean, if he had the right mindset, look, if he's coming in with his typical mindset, and we know what his mindset is, okay? Yeah. If he comes in that way, I'll put my bet on him. I would. We've seen other managers go from different countries. Didn't Ancelotti have success in different countries?
Do you know what? Five different countries. He's won the title. He's won the Champions League. We had him for a season. What a blessing! What a blessing when he came to Everton.
Right.
Just Real Madrid came back up. How can you turn down Real Madrid? It was a shame because he liked Everton. He liked the club and what it's about, the family style, the way we are. We're very working class as a club. He liked it. He liked Everton, but
money talks.
Exactly. Jimmy, great to talk about football with you because that is my number one over wrestling, believe it or not. Music,
I believe it.
Music and wrestling are two.
I
can't. Soccer, unbelievable. Before we go, we've had a few guests. I've had a few same guests as you guys. And I'll tell you what, we lost two of them. So tragic. JJ Maguire, obviously musician, made all the music that we loved in wrestling. Him and Jimmy Hart, fantastic. And Del Wilkes, the Patriot. Two great men. That hit hard when we lost them two. That hit me because I was in contact with them after. I was in contact with Del privately and JJ. Two great men, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, I'll hit Del Wilkes first. Mike was my partner Mike was really, really, really excited about having him on. He was a big fan of his. I was shocked when he passed away because let me tell you, he looked great. He looked great. He didn't have bad habits. He was a very intelligent guy. I couldn't believe that he passed away. He was a great interview that day too. He had a lot of opinions outside of wrestling, and a lot of our show is a lot of that. It's not just the wrestling. We want to talk to the people. We want to know what kind of people they are. And Del Wilkes was one of the most classy, gracious gentlemen that we've had. I was absolutely shocked when I heard that he passed away. It made no sense to me whatsoever. None. Now, as far as JJ goes, I loved JJ as a person. JJ was a friend. JJ was one of the very few that we've had on the show that would call me on a consistent basis. He would call me a lot, and I felt bad. I think the last time he tried to call me, I didn't get back to him right away, and then I heard that he passed away. And JJ gave off a very young aura, but I always knew that he was in his 70s, but it amazed me that he was in his 70s because he did not feel like he was. So another one where I was really shocked, but that one really hit because we have made friends with some of the folks in this business, and JJ is probably in my top 5. He was a brilliant musician. We got to jam with him with my band with Stereo Hall on Monte and the Pharaoh.
Yeah,
that was fantastic. When he was in town for that event, we took him to the studio, and he hadn't seen a drum kit in years. And he got excited because it's an old early 1980, like John Bonham, basically Ludwig set. And he jumped on that thing and he played it like he had never stopped playing. That's a musician. I was like, oh my God, check this guy out. Wonderful man. Love JJ.
Unbelievable. I contacted Mike and it would have been late, early hours in the morning. And I don't know, he passed either 3 or 4 days prior, maybe a bit longer. And I messaged Mike privately. And I said, Mike, I'm devastated, because he kept in contact with me in message form, not phone calls.
Right.
Or we voice noted. And Mike, I just said, Mike, I can't believe it. So I confided in Mike, because I look up to Mike. I was very upset, Jimmy. I was very upset for quite a while. And the same with Del, because Del was in contact with me after. And you don't get that. You don't get that all the time with these guests.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately there's a couple of handfuls of wrestlers who have been on our show and have passed away. I was very, very jolted by New Jack passing away. I liked him. I liked New Jack very much. He was another one who out of nowhere reached out to me on Facebook, and I'm like, wow, New Jack's got the time to do this? Of course, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was on his 5th shot or 5th bottle, perhaps, whatever. But he was a really great guy. I really liked him. I know he's done a lot of crazy crap in his life, obviously, but I liked him. Lanny Poffo passing away. What was that? Another guy who was friends with the show, and we went back years with Lanny. Very supportive.
He'd gone to Broadway and all that. He was in the theatre bit, and then he was dead. He was going about his business. He was just. Right. you just expect them to live forever, don't you? And that is just, unfortunately, it's not the case. It's
Right.
not the case, and it's so sad. But man, we've been entertained, haven't we? And we will continue to be entertained because everything they've done is we can get to it.
Yeah, you can always watch them. I mean, I learned about death at a young age when, you know, John Lennon was murdered.
Mhm.
The Beatles are my favorite band, so I'd like to say thank you to the UK for giving us those 4 young lads from Liverpool. That was horrendous, and I was all of 12 going on 13 when that happened.
Mhm.
But I still listen to John. I listen to the Beatles all the time. You know, if you want to watch a Lanny Poffo match, you can watch him beat Hulk Hogan on Saturday night's main event
Yeah.
by count out while I rage. Boy, was I mad when that happened. I'm like, whoa, man. And then you meet Lanny in person. He's like, how you doing, fellas? I'm like, wow, Lanny's pretty cool. I thought he was cool. We spent a lot of time with Lanny several times when he was up in New York. Great guy.
Jimmy, thank you so much for sparing the time. We've
You
merely scratched the surface. You've got to come back on. You've got to promise me that.
Okay.
It'd be nice to get you and Mike on together because I don't normally do. It's normally just 1-to-1. I'd like
Right.
to have you and Mike at the same time if we
That
can.
can be done.
I know you guys are busy, so I appreciate any time you can spare into the future. Thank you so much for coming on Stu's Wrestling Podcast.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you to you, Stu. You do a lot of hard work, and it's obvious how much you love pro wrestling.
Thank you.
And much love and you know, respect to you and your fan base. Thank you.
My guest today, broadcaster extraordinaire, co-host of the fantastic Monte and the Pharaoh show, variety show, not just wrestling. They do it all. You want to be entertained? Get on to Monte and the Pharaoh if you haven't already. I'm sure a lot of people have who know me. And just keep doing what you're doing. I know you will. And thank you for being a source of inspiration for me with my show.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure.
Thank you, Jimmy. All the best, mate.
All the best, brother.